Right, welcome back everybody. In studio with me, Hishaam Ally from Western Cape. Practical shooting, of course, as you know, we've got many different shooting codes in the Western Cape. We've got air rifle, we've got black powder shooting, we've got Bisley. There are so many different shooting codes. But today we're talking about practical shooting. And Hishaam, as you were telling me, practical shooting is all about taking turning it into a practical experience. I mean, whether you have a shotgun or a handgun, you've got to understand that real life will occur. And it's not just the question of you have a firearm, you leave in the cupboard and then you're going to use it one day. You need to actually understand all the practical elements. Now, I really want to find out about all these high performance elements, but I'm quite curious, how do you go about constructing these different practical components? I mean, like you said, maybe you're in a car, maybe you're in a high-rise building, maybe you're on a boat somewhere. Do you guys sit and practically think, oh, okay, I'm going to really come up with a tough challenge this weekend?
Yes, in fact, we do. Really, we do.
Yeah.
In fact, you could be going through a building, and there could be doors and windows, and you could be sitting in a car. You could be sitting behind a table, knife and fork. You know, you could be laying under a car.
Yeah,
and your toolbox is there and your firearm is in the toolbox. So these are the types of scenarios that we build for you, and that's the practical aspect of shooting. And we build these types of sets, and you should now engage this set in the best possible time with the best possible score.
Well, it's very interesting that you mentioned building these sets, because when we speak to the folks from Western Cape Climbing, they have officials that are qualified, what they call route setters, that they specifically have a qualification to set the route, and every time you compete there's a different route. Do you have sort of challenge setters, guys that are qualified to do the setting?
Yes, we do. In fact, if you apply at club level, the level 1, that's club. Level 2 is provincial, level 3 is national, level 4 is continental, and level 5 is world shoot.
Right.
So we build stages for club levels, or for level 2 or for level 3, depending. Each one has got a skill set, people with the necessary skill set to build a stage for that level.
Do they actually physically build it, hammer and tongs? Or?
No. There's 3 sets of guys.
Yeah.
The one guy sits there and he designs the course.
Right.
That then gets handed over to verifiers, invigilators.
Right.
They look at this and they say, oh, you know what, we could change that, we could improve that. I don't think that is a level 2. That's sub level 2. Let's beef it up a bit. Once that's approved, it then goes on to the committee, who then sends it off to the necessary range that's hosting the match.
Right.
They build.
They actually build
They
that by hand?
that by hand. They build it by hand.
Yeah.
Cable ties, screws,
Really?
nails, hammering, putting up walls, putting up windows, putting up doors. We'll make a makeshift car out of pallets and things like that. And then they build it.
Do they do anything that are like maybe distraction-wise, like a challenge and then there's water falling over you, or a dog barking on the side, or?
No, we don't have that challenges. Because, but what we do have, we've got disappearing targets.
Right.
And moving targets.
Okay.
So you might find that something comes out from behind a wall for a second and it disappears.
Right.
And you've only got that second to react, in which to grab, to engage that target.
Yeah.
We've also got penalty targets. So, for instance, as in the movies, you have a gentleman behind a hostage type of scenario, and how do you engage that target without shooting at the hostage? And then at the end of the day, you've got a vetting committee that goes around and see, does the stages conform? Is it safe?
Yeah.
Is it good enough to last for the rest of the day? For instance, the Cape wind. I mean, if the wind blows over the sets, it needs to be solid enough to withstand the wind.
So when you now go and compete on the day, do you have referees or umpires? Is there somebody there that sits with a clipboard and checks?
Yes, we've got 3 of them, in fact. The one works with you with a timer. He sets you off.
Right.
And then you will do the course of fire. And this automatic timer will start and stop on the first and the last shot that is fired, first of all. Secondly, you'll have a scorekeeper that goes around and checks out, make sure that the scores is correct, things like that. And sometimes, because if the stage is a big stage, you could have a third umpire, or we call it a range officer, to officiate, to ensure that the shooter maintains safety.
Okay.
You cannot be your weapon cannot be just going all over the show. It can only go down range.
Yes.
You can only shoot down range, and the firearm can only be pointed down range. You could go for what we call a 180-degree angle. Anything beyond that, and you're disqualified for the day.
So if for example, I'm a cricket umpire and I wanted to join your structure, and I don't want to shoot, I just want to help out with the administrative side. I want to continue umpiring. I want to be involved. Is that something that I could do? I can come to you and I can learn how?
Absolutely. You know, we'd welcome because we don't have enough range officers.
Right.
And, you know, starting out in the sport, people get so excited and they start out as officials, as range officers.
Yes.
Admin clerks or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And soon enough they say, you know, I want to get involved in it. I want to start competing.
So you start off as an official and maybe become someone who shoots.
Yes, and
it's the other way around.
To compete, and it becomes to compete. Very seldom the other way around.
Yeah.
You know, and so we've got a high range officer
requirement.
Not just a requirement, but per turnover, because they start out, they love it, they're there for a year or two, and then they bugger off and they compete. And so we're definitely looking for officials, always.
Hishaam, you're proudly wearing your Protea colours here. You've got South Africa on your shirt, shooting South Africa. How are we doing? Let's go back to what we started with.
Oh, yes.
Yes. How are we doing from an international perspective? You mentioned that you've got athletes that are competing internationally now.
Yes. Well, I can't really talk from a from a national perspective, but I know most of the athletes that's going across.
Yeah.
And they all got day jobs.
Right.
And they're not professional athletes in the sense that this is a hobby that they take very seriously.
Yeah.
And there's some serious money. It costs a world shoot. It costs you between 70 to 100,000 to attend a world shoot.
But there's opportunity. I mean, if you're shooting at ground level now, there's a pathway. You can end up competing against the best.
Yes. So there's probably around about 700, 800 people competing at the world shoot worldwide.
Wow, yeah.
And that takes place over 5 days.
Yeah.
And there's 8 stages per day. And so you can imagine the amount of shooting that takes place there. And spectators are always welcome to these matches.
Final question is, you mentioned some of the clubs earlier on. You've got clubs, I forget some of the names now. You mentioned Scotskloof and that.
There's Shukukai and Scottish Kloof. There's Mitchell's Plain Practical Shooting Association. There's Falls Bay Gun Club out in Falls Bay, past Fisher Glencairn side. There's Southern Arms out on Table Mountain, Practical Pistol Shooting out in Table Mountain. So there's quite a few clubs. There's Milnerton Shooting Association out in Atlantis. Yeah, so there's quite a few clubs in the Western Cape.
So if somebody's watching the show right now, wants to start shooting, there's a club nearby them.
There's a club nearby.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Hishaam, it's been great getting you back in the studio. As I said, you've got a permanent seat here to give exposure to your clubs and your members, and hopefully for the folks that are watching, they will take note that you need range officers and they'll come and join the shooting structure.
Yes, look, we're always open to new guys coming to join the sport, whether they're competitors or officials. Definitely, always. And thanks for having me, JP.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you back. Right, folks, there we go. Hishaam Ally is, of course, from Western Cape Shooting. Many of our athletes then in the Western Cape doing practical shooting and then progressing through to provincial, national, and, well, as you said, possibly even international level. Great to see that our sport's doing so well in the province. But, yeah, find out. Just run a Google search on practical shooting in the Western Cape. The names will come up. Find a club near you. And remember, if you maybe used to blow the whistle at a sport code in your previous years, get involved with practical shooting. There's a pathway there for you to be involved as an official. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll carry on talking about sport in the province. Don't go away.